April 1936. The Arabs felt they had to act now. Palestine was immobilized by an Arab general strike. The constitutional scheme was forgotten. The strike lasted 6 months. The violence began. The railway lines and the oil pipeline were the favorite targets. Arab bands formed in the hills and attacked government property, army and police. Convoys were ambushed. Individual Jews, as well as their shops and factories, were victims of bomb and sniper attacks. In Jerusalem, the British evacuated the Jews from the old city. The inevitable, the fourth but extremely able Royal Commission, was chaired by Lord Peel.
I am well aware that we have to deal with difficult and delicate problems.
Lord Peel was not given to exaggeration. The Commission left London to begin hearings in Jerusalem in November 1936. The Commission was deeply attentive as it took evidence.
Our right is as old as the Jewish people.
Jews should come into Palestine as long as Palestine can absorb the exact state
independence and a categorical refusal of the Zionist policy, while however
are immigration, land, labor, and the question of self-government.
One, the abandonment of the experiment of the Jewish national home, which originated
to make the Jewish people master of its own.
Peel's analysis was radical.
The situation in Palestine has reached deadlock. We cannot, in Palestine as it is now, both concede the Arab claim to self-government and secure the establishment of the Jewish national home. It is fundamentally a conflict of right with right.
I think if you read the terms of reference, you will see that the expectation still was that the mandate would be continued, but that the Commission would recommend reforms within the mandate, which would remove the grievances and make for better administration. So in questioning the mandate itself and saying that it was no longer workable, the Commission were indeed a radical body.
They had come to the conclusion that there was no land available for Jewish settlement except near Jerusalem. They felt obliged to urge the prohibition of land sales to Jews in certain areas, and that immigration should be restricted to 12,000 a year and then reviewed after 5 years. These, they said, were at best palliatives and held out no hope that they would cure the trouble. Their alternative was revolutionary.
Partition seems to offer at least a chance of ultimate peace. We can see none in any other plan.
There was no hope of peace in the country as long as these two national communities were held apart and didn't have their own right of self-government. And the only way the Commission could see of giving this right of self-government was to give each a state in a part of Palestine.
Palestine, a country the size of Wales, was to be partitioned. The Jewish state was centered on the areas where they had bought land. It contained 250,000 Jews and almost as many Arabs. This was the proposed Arab state. In it, there were over 500,000 Arabs and 1,250 Jews. Jerusalem and a corridor to the sea was to remain British. Another commission, appointed the following year to finalize partition, could find no single satisfactory plan. The British awaited reaction.
There was a very large minority who opposed this completely because they said into this small area of Palestine you couldn't possibly absorb the Jewish immigrants who would want to come. On the other hand, the whole of Palestine was our patrimony. This was our right. You couldn't just give it away by agreeing to a partitioning of Palestine. The majority tended to say, look, we are in an awful situation. This is 1937. Jews are being persecuted, driven out. We need some place. Let's accept the British proposal, not as it stands, but with certain additions.
They were horrified because from their point of view, partition was vivisection. They were horrified at the idea that an alien state would be established on their soil. They were horrified at the concept of Jewish sovereignty on Arab soil against Arab wishes at the point of the gun. They were horrified at the extent of the territory granted to the Jewish community by Peel. The Jewish population in Palestine at this time owned about 5% of the territory of the country, but Peel gave the Jewish state about 45% of the territory. They were horrified at the Peel recommendation that in the last analysis, the Arabs who fell into the Jewish state would be transferred forcibly from their lands.
Autumn 1937. The Arab rebellion re-erupted. The British arrested and deported the Arab leadership, but the rebellion continued. Rebel arms were brought out of hiding. A band of 200 rebels came in from Syria. Railway stations were destroyed. Arab bands controlled most of the roads and many of the towns. There were 176 attacks on Jews. Their crops and orchards were attacked. Jewish defense, in Hebrew, Haganah, tolerated but not acknowledged by the British, organized self-defense to protect Jewish property and settlements.
They were fortified, they were trained, they had projectors, they had barbed wire entanglements, positions, concrete, and so on. And the Arab people didn't dare to penetrate. In the first 6 months of the rebellion, during the strike, the general strike, there was only one case in the kibbutz in Tel Yosef where they penetrated. And they were repelled even then, and not a single casualty.